Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be ranking every single mascot, and it's probably, if not the most popular, one of the most popular awards in 2K history. And to start things off, we're going to start things with the 76ers mascot. Now, I'm a 76ers fan myself, and I can tell you wholeheartedly, this mascot sucks. In 2K22, they first introduced it, and when it first came out, for some reason they made the choice to make the ears look like a bunny. So everyone thought that it was a blue bunny, but no, our mascot's actually a bulldog, which is why this is getting a D tier. Next up, we got the Bucks mascot. Now, a lot of these mascots are going to fall into this category where they don't look bad particularly, but they're not too special themselves, which is why the Bucks mascot is getting a B tier. Next up, we have the Bulls mascot, probably the most used mascot in 2K right now. I mean, I love him, I use him, everyone uses him. Benny the Bull is S tier. Next up, we got the Cavs mascot, which is just some bulldog. I'm not really sure what the names of all these mascots are, but I can tell you right now, this mascot, it's nothing special. I mean, it looks kind of goofy, and I like the fact that whenever you shoot a ball or shoot a jump shot, the ears flap in the air, has some details, has a little bit of texture. It's B tier. Now, the Clippers mascot. This might be a hot take, but I absolutely do not like the Clippers mascot design. It honestly just looks really cartoony and goofy. It is big, which is the only redeeming quality of it. It's probably the worst out of the big mascots. It's no Wizards, Heat, or Rockets mascot, but it is big. It's the worst one though. It's C tier. Next up, we got the Grizzlies mascot. I'll be honest, this has been the ugliest mascot in 2K for years. If you run around with the Grizzlies mascot, I'm not gonna lie, you stink. That shit trash. Next up, we got the Hawks mascot, which again, it kind of falls into that category. I'm not the biggest fan of the Hawks mascot. It kind of looks goofy. It doesn't add too much height to your character. It's going to be neck and neck with the Clippers mascot for me. So that's why it's C tier. Next up, we have the Heat's mascot, which is the biggest mascot in the game. Infamously worn by post scorers and post hookers. It's tall. It's great. It adds 3 feet to your character. It's S tier. Next up, we have the Hornets mascot, which again isn't particularly ugly, isn't particularly great. It does add a little bit of size to your character. In my opinion, it's a little worse than the Bucks mascot, a little better than the Cavs. It's gonna go in between them in B tier. Next up, we have the Jazz mascot. This mascot is super goofy. I'm sorry, grinding, but this mascot really isn't it. The yellow to go with the headband. I'm sorry, grinding, but I'm gonna have to put this mascot in C tier. Honestly, it really does. It's not it. Next up, we have the Kings mascot, and I'm gonna be honest, this mascot has me torn because it's not particularly ugly. It's just weird seeing a lion stand up. The lion mascot, I feel like if it was on all fours, it would look like a legit lion. But there's just something weird about seeing it on 2 feet, which is why it's gonna get the top of C tier. Next up, we have the Magic mascot, which is probably one of the best mascots in the game. It's huge, it's tall, adds way more mass to your player. The colors are great, the textures are great. The Magic mascot, in my opinion, is A tier. Next up, we have the Mavericks mascot, which honestly does look really clean. I like the horse design. I like the blue. The blue and white really does fit with each other. It's clean. When you dribble, it's clean. I think that this mascot is probably going to be the top of B tier. Next up, we have the Nuggets mascot. I'm gonna be honest, this mascot sucks. It doesn't add too much height to your character. It looks kind of goofy. I really don't understand why the Nuggets chose this as their mascot. This mascot, in my opinion, probably gonna be in D tier. I'm sorry. Next up, we have the Pacers mascot, which again, it doesn't make sense. 2, I don't know what it is. And 3, the colors are just kind of ugly to me. But again, it's also not the worst one. It does add a little bit of height and mass to your character. Probably gonna be the top of C. Next up, we have the Pelicans mascot. Now, this one has a little bit of extra details to it. Whenever you shoot a jump shot, you get to see the wings sprout. Overall, though, the Pelicans mascot, it's kind of basic, but it does have more details than the Cavs mascot and definitely more than the Hornets mascot. It's going to be in the middle of B tier. Next up, we have the Pistons mascot, which honestly does look pretty clean. I do like the Pistons mascot. It's nothing special, though, to be honest. I like the colors. I like the look. It's going to be second best in B tier. Next up, we have the Raptors mascot. And to me, personally, this mascot is just like the Hornets mascot, in which it's very close to its name. Like the Hornets mascot is a Hornet, the Raptors mascot is a Raptor. It's a little worse design wise, so that's why it's going to be just below the Hornets mascot in B tier. Next up, we have the Rockets mascot, Clutch. Clutch is goated. He's huge, he adds 3 feet to your player. He's the big panda that everyone loves. We're throwing him up in S tier. Next up, you have the Spurs mascot, which was probably the most used mascot in NBA 2K20, but since then his popularity kind of died down. The reason why he's so popular is because he's very skinny, but he's also very tall. So when you dribble around, it looks very, very smooth, but you're also about 2 feet taller, which is what makes him A tier. Next up, you have the Suns mascot. This is very, very make or break for a lot of people. The reason why people like it is because you're still wearing a mascot, but you're the size of your my player. And the reason why people hate the mascot is because you're wearing it and it's the size of your my player. And some people just like having a gorilla on. But in my opinion, I'm the side that doesn't really like that it's the size of your my player. In my opinion, I think if you get a mascot, you should get a tall one, a big one, or at least get one that looks really, really cool, which is why, in my opinion, the Suns mascot is borderline B tier. Okay, maybe a little better than the Cavs mascot. Next up, we have the Timberwolves mascot, which honestly, it's super ugly. It doesn't add too much mass to your player either. If not the least used, the second least used mascot in the game. It's right next to the Grizzlies mascot in trash tier. Next up, we have the Thunder's mascot, which honestly looks incredibly ugly. The only redeeming quality, again, just like the Clippers mascot, is its height. It does have a little bit of mass. Besides that, this mascot would honestly be in trash tier if it didn't have that little bit of mass, but since it does, it just barely gets into D tier. Next up, we have the Trailblazers mascot. This mascot, it's just super clean. It's not particularly big in any way, but it is super clean. The gloves, the warm-up tracksuit, the shoes, I mean, the drip is all there. And honestly, this is my favorite mascot in the game. This mascot, to me, in my opinion, is S tier. Next up, we have the Wizards mascot. It's goofy. It kind of looks like a blue version of the Fnatic. I think the official name of this mascot is G-Wiz. So that automatically bumps it up 1 tier, which is why, in my humble opinion, this is probably the second best in A tier. Now we're moving on to the affiliation mascots. We're gonna start things off with the Knight. I'm gonna be honest, this is probably my least favorite affiliation mascot. It just looks like a toy's plastic soldier. I do have some resound hate for this mascot. It's at the bottom of C tier. Next up, we have the Vipers mascot. Again, this mascot doesn't look particularly bad, put it 3rd best in C tier. Next up, we have the Wildcat, which is probably the fan favorite out of all the affiliation mascots. It does look pretty clean. The colors do go together. I do like the design of the Wildcat. I think his face looks awesome. This mascot is probably gonna be 3rd best in B tier. And finally, probably the most infamous affiliation mascot, and the first mascot in 2K history to actually make your player shorter, the Beast mascot. Now, when this mascot first got leaked, everyone thought that this was Benny the Bull on crack, which is why he's S tier. Next up, we have the GOAT mascot. I'm gonna be honest, there was almost zero hype for this mascot. I don't think anybody cared once it dropped. As soon as that season ended, everyone just moved on. The design is really goofy. I don't really like how his teeth are just all out. I'm gonna be honest, this mascot is D tier. And there you have it. That is my complete 2K23 mascot tier list. Comment down below what you think. If you want to do this for yourself, go on tiermaker.com and look up 2K mascot tier list maker, and you can do this for yourself.